There you go. Okay. Your son?
Yes.
Very sorry. Your son's a beautiful soul, though, I will tell you. I love his personality. Very outgoing. Almost like a million things goes through your head with this one. I'll be very honest with you. It's almost like you're not yourself, he's saying. You've been everywhere. Depression. You got birds. What's with birds with you? It's almost like birds flock to you. I don't know that if you want them to flock to you in that kind of way, I have to be honest with you. He keeps going birds and birds and birds. Like they're always around the house or always around where you are. And one bird in particular, it's almost like it sits and it stares at you. And that's how he shows it to me. Where sometimes you look at it like freaky bird and you just kind of walk away from it. Because he says most of the time you're in a daze. You're kind of everywhere. It's almost like since I passed, you don't know which way to go. Do you see my point? You have one more other child. Is that correct? This is your only child. Because he's looking for one more. So is there one that he was very close to?
I wouldn't know that he was closer to one than the other.
Just different communication. Female? You have a daughter?
I have 2 daughters.
Just one daughter more than the other. No offense to the other daughter at that moment. No offense to her, but it's a different connection between the two. Do you understand? He always mentions one. One must be more emotional. Maybe that's the best way to really say it, for emotions and different way of handling things. Could be more, I could bottle things up and not say too many things to you. Do you see my point? But they had a connection, these two. I don't know how to stress that to you in that kind of way. It's not favoritism, because all your kids, 3? 4. Because he went 3-4. I don't know what the 4 went into that angle, but he goes 3-4, 3-4. He keeps doing that to me, like want to mess with me on certain things. He says that I've made you proud in one way, but I've also drove you crazy in others. Does that make sense to you? He says because you forget about everything. For certain things, he says it's almost like you don't really want to remember what happened. It's almost like you rather remember the good times and just put a lot of things differently for you. Is this his anniversary or his birthday? Because he's mentioning parties and celebrations and something's coming up or something big is coming here. Is it a birthday, anniversary, or some kind of a celebration coming for you? It might not necessarily may have to be him, but it may be something that's with you guys is how he's looking at it for me.
This year will be 10 years.
Okay. Because he's saying it's, so are you doing something differently this year? Okay. I don't know what that means in that way, but you're going to have to keep it in your back pocket because it may switch up for you. I don't know, because he's saying your head's in a million areas with him. It's almost like you feel him all the time, though, sweetie, don't you? He goes, because I never left your side. But it's almost like when he passed, you lost a whole big part of you that you didn't even know if you were coming or going. He says that you didn't even want to get out of bed. He said all you do was cry. He goes, and you still cry, and you still cry. He's like, and there's nothing wrong with it, where some people may look at you like you're stir crazy. I have to be honest with you. Or like, are you going to just breathe for a minute? Are you going to be able to work for a minute? Does that make sense to you? But it's your choice. Why does everything have to be pressure for you? Does that make sense? I just feel like certain ways you're pressured with certain things. What's with cars with him?
Cars? He had one car he worked on that he fixed up that he liked.
Older car, though? Is that correct? But not too old? It's gray. I'm looking at a gray car. It was a gray car.
He died in a great car.
So it is the accident. But was he the driver is my question. Somebody else was in that car. And they survived? The friend, though. Are you not keen on that friend?
I've never had a problem with him.
Because there's not full truth here. Would that make sense to you with certain things? You never got a full story. That's where I'm looking for it.
I never asked.
Okay. That would make total sense with me in a different kind of way, because he says you never got full story. He says it's late at night. He shows me late. Does that make sense to you as well?
It was 9.
Late. So is that considered late for him to be home usually? I don't know.
They were on their way to somewhere to go swimming.
Okay, because it's almost like he's saying everything happens so quickly. Okay, so I don't know if you want... He's going to give me pieces of it because it's almost like I can't implant something into your head. Do you see my point with it? So it's almost like he's going to give me pieces of certain things. So I don't even know if you're going to realize that. But he's saying everything happened so quickly. Everything happened like... It was almost like... By the time he got to the hospital, if you're wondering if he was still alive, it's like I was barely alive. Does that make sense to you? Okay, he's like almost like I was in between. Okay, so I don't know how else to put that in that direction. He goes, it was so much to happen, but no answers and no everything, and who was blaming this and who was blaming that and who was blaming in this direction. It's almost like you didn't even care about the blame. You just wanted to know where the hell your son was and if he was going to be okay. Do you see my point? He says you've always been about your kids and you've always taken care of everybody. That me, just the way this accent, what's this tree? Is there a tree here or some kind of a guardrail? It's like something hard, okay? This is the way he's showing out to me. Very hard impact. But I'm going here onto my face and my chest, so I don't know if that was the extent of his damage, but he goes here and he goes here, so I don't know which way he's hitting me into these angles, but it's such a bad hit is how he's showing it to me, okay? That it's almost like there is no way things could have changed in different angles, okay? He says that I only had 2 or 3 true friends. Does that make sense to you? He goes, I don't like big circles, Ma. You know I don't like big circles. He goes, because there was too much drama. I didn't like to deal with drama. I didn't like to deal with the nonsense. A lot of girls, though. Is that correct with him? Oh, my God. He's like a little stud muffin, your son. That's why it's almost like every girl wanted him. That sometimes you're like, oh, my God, I don't even want to know the damn girl's name because who the hell's going to call my house and I don't even know about it. You used to always, he laughs at that. He goes, because they used to drive you crazy because you said you didn't want him to go out like that and date a million girls. You always said, be fair, be respectful. How you treat me, you treat women. He was always very respectful, your son. I will tell you right now, always very respectful. But he just didn't want a different one person. Does that make sense to you? He goes, I just like to have a good time. He goes, I had so much going for me. Do you see? He goes, I'm a very smart son. I will tell you, very smart, very well educated. He goes, I always he was going into college. Is that correct? Or in college? Yeah, because he shows study books. He even still shows me books here. So I don't know if he was entering or still into school in here. But he almost shows me different studies and different looking into things. He goes, I would have made you so proud in different ways. He is your oldest or your second oldest?
Oldest.
Okay, because sometimes, did you used to baby him? Probably because he's the oldest, I guess, in his own way.
But he didn't get in as much trouble as his younger brother.
Okay, because he's saying one's a little worse than me, so I wasn't sure if I was going to hit a sister or if I was going to hit a boy into that. No offense to him. He says, but I did stupid things, but you knew about my stupid things. Does that make sense to you? He goes, you knew about little things where you're just like, oh my God, please just don't do that. You're going to get yourself into stupid trouble. He goes, whereas my brother, Daddy Longlegs over there, always up to something, always into something. Sometimes you're just like, I got to watch this one because I don't know which way he's going to hit sometimes. It's almost like you have a fear of when they come in and out of the house for different things now. Does that make sense to you? Just in how you feel about certain things. Does that make sense? This one's all over the place. I'm going to tell you right now. But he comes in as a whirlwind of music and craziness and color. What's what colors? He's like colors and burst of colors. He doesn't like any kind of darkness. I will tell you that. He likes all the light in. He says you haven't slept in years. Does that make sense to you? He says that every time you wake up at a certain hour or you dwell on the clock at a certain hour. Does that make sense to you as well? You light a candle for him as well. Is that correct? Because he says you always have my candle lit. My pictures are everywhere. He goes in different places that there is not a time where you walk past something and you just don't see me. Does that make sense to you? He goes, do you do that? Is that my thing with you? Because he goes, so that means he's kissing you at nighttime even though you don't sleep. I'll be honest with you, it's your head. He says, because he always used to touch you on your head. He was a goofball, this one. Is that correct? He goes, I like to goof with her. No offense. You're the one who loses everything as well. Is that correct? Your stuff is always everywhere. He says, she's so unorganized. He goes, but she'll tell you she's organized, but she's not organized. He goes, that's why you lose everything. He goes, but he likes to mess with you. I'm so sorry. But he likes to mess with you in such different ways because he's saying that you never got to say your goodbyes the way you wanted to say your goodbyes. Does that make sense? That you have such a hard time pushing through this, if that makes sense to you. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. Doesn't matter to you. Do you see? It's almost like it still feels like yesterday that you're still in this nightmare and haven't woke up from it. And that's exactly how I'm looking at it. It's almost like you just couldn't feel it coming. Do you see what I mean? And you feel like mom, like you have to save everything and change everything is exactly how he's putting it to me. He says that sometimes you two have a very special bond, you and this son. Is that correct? Not saying with the rest of your kids you don't, just different with this one for some particular reason. It's almost like he was always attached to you, even as a baby. He says, you know me, I was always into things as a baby, always up to something, always touching things. Very, what is it, music with him? Even as a kid? Did you used to play music for him?
Not really.
Because he mentions music, right?
He liked music in his car.
Okay, because it's music and music and music and music. He says you put on the radio, but your eyes just daze out into a whole nother world that you don't even realize it's on. Sometimes you need noise. Does that make sense to you? You can't not have a house or in a car with no noise. It drives you stir crazy. You have a truck that you drive right now. Is that correct? Or SUV, whatever you want to call it, because I don't know, SUV trucks, they all make them different names nowadays. Mm-hmm. Red. Mm-hmm. He said, you have that car for a while? Mm-hmm. He likes it. It's a little different. You needed a truck. Does that make sense to you? Or SUV, whatever. He says you needed it. You're not a great driver, he says, with certain things. So I don't know if you hit potholes or you're just not a good parker for certain things.
He might be thinking about my husband.
Because he said somebody is a terrible parker here. Doesn't realize things. Whereas these tires, good thing you got good tires. That's what he keeps saying. Good thing you got good tires, because it's almost like it hits something. You're lucky you don't pop tires. That's exactly how he was saying it to me.
His sister runs over curbs.
Oh, God. She's the third or the second?
She's the third.
Okay, so, and the second is a girl or is it the boy?
Boy.
Okay, so there's the sister I'm looking for. Right there is the third sister. It's a beautiful daughter that you do have, correct? Mm-hmm. He says, my sisters are gorgeous. I'm sorry, I'm saying they're gorgeous. He says, they're a little bit boy crazy, or one of them is a little bit more boy crazy than the other. Would that make sense? One doesn't even care. That's exactly how I'm looking at her. She's more into her studies and going out, doing her own little thing. He says, where the other one is like, notice me. He goes, he's funny. He goes, she needs to chill out. It's probably your youngest one in a different kind of way. He says, because you have one that's very quiet or very just to herself and just gets things done. All very smart. One is scholarship material here. If it hasn't, if she or he hasn't been a scholarship yet, it's going more of the female. So I'm going to say she. One of them will come with a definite scholarship here. It's almost like bookworm, research worm, always into the computers and writing things down. Feathers. Who has a dream catcher?
The oldest daughter.
She goes and he moves it. Is it by her bed or above her bed? Because he likes to swing it on something. I don't know where the heck it is. It's in like a weird little area, but he always does that. He goes, he likes to play with the things, and one is a mess. Always room is a mess. Maybe the door has to be closed 24/7. Because I feel like when you walk past it, you're like, what a nightmare. I can't even do it today. It's almost like you have to take a deep breath. That's how he's saying. He goes, I hate going in her rooms. I trip over everything. There's always something in my way. And he goes, but she finds everything. Shoes. Somebody's got a shoe fetish. They always got to have these stylish shoes or stylish sneakers of all kinds of freaking shoes. He goes, you don't need all those damn shoes. She got enough feet. You know how many feet she got? He goes, but she's so unorganized. But that girl could pull anything out of a hat. Let me tell you. Boop, there. He says, whereas my brother, it's almost like he's very not like a jockey. I can't say like a jockey, but he says like a jockey. It's weird for me to say it because I don't have him as a sports person. Is that correct? I don't think so, because I'm like, it doesn't fit me as a sports person, but he's very sociable. Is that what the thing is with him? Talking, and all over the place. Mm-hmm. But stupid with the friends. Oh my God, stupid. He goes, he's always got to follow these little geniuses around. He goes, we got to follow him around. They need him more than he needs them. He needs to smarten up with that. I feel like you've been repeating yourself like a broken record is what he's saying. Broken record, round. He says that he just don't get it. Sometimes he feels like you're overreacting because of him. That's not the case here in this scenario. It's almost like, you're being protective, Mom, because you have to be. But that would be you naturally, whether he was here as well. You would still be the crazy protective mom. It's you as a mom. He says at the same, you working too. Is that correct? Oh, God bless your soul, he says. You have one girl who's annoying. Somebody work with you just talking to you all damn day? Like, she don't shut the hell up, he said. She does talking and Is that you? I'm so sorry if that's you. And he's just like talking and talking. He goes, she don't shut up. My mother's just sitting there like, okay, she done. She gonna keep going or what? He goes, because I'm tired of hearing a little voice over there. He goes, can we play some music and make it a happy lands a little bit around here? He goes, it's like Debbie Downers over here. He's funny. I will say, very funny, very outgoing. You left everything almost exactly the same, though. Is that correct? Of his stuff.
No.
Because he's saying almost exactly the same. So what does that mean in that angle for you? Because he says, my stuff almost exactly the same, or do you have it all in one area? Because I'm everywhere. He makes it very clear. I'm everywhere, but my stuff, same. Don't know what that means. So I guess think about it, but I'll put it there for you because he goes, same. He also has, what's with yearbooks with him?
I just got his senior yearbook.
Okay, because he says book and book. Kind of when you look at it, it's almost like you got it and you tossed it. Does that make sense to you? Almost like you didn't want to open it. Do you understand? It's almost like you knew it was there, but I don't want to touch it. That's how it looks at it. It's like I have to put it away. So it's almost like when you're ready, he says you'll open it. He wears a lot of cologne. You'll smell him. He's like, he's like spraying it down. He says, you always do. You have something that dangles in your car too. Is that correct? Right on the mirror? I says, they always been moving. He says, it moves, it's grooving. He goes, Jillian, pay attention. He goes, and he likes to hit it. He says, even your radio doesn't work right all the time, or it skips a station or something here. Is that correct? It goes out, goes it, goes up, goes it. It's your son. He's trying to give you so many signs. He goes, because you know I'm there, but I feel like sometimes he's saying you need it in your face. Does that make sense to you? He goes, then it makes it a little bit more easier for you to breathe. It makes you a little bit more like, okay. He's like, I'm okay. You do understand that. He goes, I know you know that, but it's almost like you're still not okay with that. Of course you're not okay with that. It's your mom, so I can't tell you that you would be okay with that. He says that, when you lost me, you have no arm. That's how he's showing me, like you have no arm. It's almost like you lost the whole side of you. Do you understand? So that's why he says she has no arm. She's just paralyzed on one whole side. He goes, I don't even know how she gets up for work, because there's times when you just don't even want to go to work. You're looking at the ceiling going, I'd rather skip it out. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to stay in my house either, because it's like it's actually worse for you to stay behind. Grandma drives you a little crazy. Is that correct? Is there a grandma that drives you a little crazy here? Maybe she calls 100 times, but there's a woman that calls you 100 times. You keep saying. Looking for the woman. Somebody's going to be calling you 100 times. Do you have a mother that's passed over? Your mother, though? Because he says, I'm not alone. So there's another person. Who's the male? Is it your dad or a grandfather?
My dad.
Okay. Very sweet, your father? Funny as heck. Is that correct? Remind you of your son? Would that make sense to you? Because he says, just like me. So I'm just trying to see which grandparent I'm going to hit on that moment. But it comes as male because he's showing me back to back. Because he has to tell you, I was never alone, Mom, so that you're very clear. Because you're always afraid he was alone. What he went through. Did he suffer? Did he have pain? Did he have this? It's almost like it runs through your head, but at the same time he says you shut it out and you just don't want to know. Does that make sense to you? He says, but I was okay. They were there. I was okay. I have to let you know. And he's so sorry for different things. It's something, what did he skid out on something here or speeding? Which one is it?
He rolled the stop sign.
Because he does this to me. So what is that exactly? I don't know what that means to you. I don't know how to put, because he keeps doing this. And that's a truck. The truck is a male, is that correct? That was driving in, an older male, is that correct? I don't even know.
26.
Intoxicated. Something else come up in blood work by any chance?
Not that no.
Because he's saying he wasn't paying attention, something wasn't right. Now, I can't tell you exactly that would mean that he was on drugs or anything like that. It could be just a medication that he was taking that kind of knocked off this gentleman's vision or focus. Do you understand? But he should have seen your son, is how he's looking at me. And there's the impact that I'm taking with your son pretty hard on his whole side, just about. Is that correct? Because he's saying my friend's side it's not as bad this way, but what I see on this side is a whole nother area. It's just the way he's showing me the car. Do you understand? So he's saying, he goes, I totally get it. And everything happens so quick. The friend is devastated, though. I will tell you, it's almost like, I don't want to be in the car with anybody. I don't want to go near anybody. He doesn't even know what to do with himself. It's like the vision sits. He's very fearful he's almost very fearful with the friend here. So it's a very depressant stage for this boy. Is that correct? So he's saying they have to pay attention to this kid. I have to be very honest with you. It's almost like he puts guilt onto himself on so many different ways. Maybe I should have said something. Maybe I should have yelled. It's almost like he's just replaying. Do you see what I mean? Over and over in his head. Maybe we shouldn't have gone out that night. Maybe we should. It's almost like a million things that are such a question, because it was the friend's idea or just a friend's suggestion, I feel, and it's almost like it weighs on my shoulder that way. Do you see my point? He goes, but he shouldn't feel that guilt that way. Do you see my, it's a good person. That's how I'm looking at this kid. He's a really good person, but it's almost like he'll never ever be the same. And my only fear with him is that he's so depressed that I really the parents would really have to watch him, because he can also take his life or hurt himself. That is my point, because he carries such a guilt. He can't even look at you, this boy. I'm going to be very honest with you at times, because it breaks him. It breaks him completely. And you get it. I'd be very honest with you, totally get it. But it's almost like right now where you are in your life with this whole situation, I need my time to breathe and step back. Do you see what I mean? I just need my own time. Your husband, very supportive in different ways, if that makes sense. Sometimes he drives you stir crazy. You want to choke him out. Love the man, but want to choke him out. Because sometimes I feel like he complains too much. Is that correct? Dad's always complaining. He says he's got a back problem. He's got a butt problem. He's got an ache problem. He's always aching about something. Typical man. He says, but it's almost like you kind of enjoy listening to something else. Does that make sense to you? It's almost like it gets you out of your head sometimes. house. He says you haven't eaten right and you haven't taken care of yourself either. So that's something you need to start doing. He says, because you're not paying attention, Ma. You don't pay attention. He goes, and I can't, he's going to sit with you forever. You do understand that? It's almost like he'll sit on your lap. Is he a lap baby or something? Always on your lap when he was a baby? God, I'm going back, girl. I know, so sorry. But they bring up past, they go all the way up to the front, so I got to go back and forth with you a little bit. Your house is different now, is that correct? Did you sell the house or did you change it drastically?
I moved.
Okay, so there is the difference there, because he's saying not the same at all. So I don't know if you changed it drastically or moved in the same direction. He says you needed to get out of that area or that house. Does that make sense to you in a weird kind of way? You're the landlord? Is that my thing with you? You guys just owned it? Okay. Because he's saying a little too annoying, a little too much going on there, okay? He goes, it was better off for you not to be there. Does that make sense? He says this new place, it's supposed to liven you up. Does that make sense to you? Beautiful house. I'm telling you, a beautiful house, but I don't feel like you feel lively yet. He says she doesn't feel bouncy in it at all yet. It's almost like she looks at it and she's like, no. It's almost like something always comes up with the house. There's always kind of an issue or something's breaking or something needs to be changed. And you kind of look at the house going, no. Your husband is the one who really picked this house out more than you. Would that make sense in a weird kind of way?
No.
Because he's like it's more dad than it is you. So I don't know what that means exactly into that kind of area, but he's just putting it into that sense. He says the house will come different in time. Does that make sense to you?
Hope so.
It will. It's just different energy. Is it something with the energy in the house that's killing you in there?
It's not my childhood home that they grew up in, that we grew up in.
So that's where it comes to difference. Did somebody make you sell the other house by any chance?
More or less.
Because they wanted their share, is that correct? Or they wanted a split for something here, is that correct?
Kind of.
Yeah, but that's not their. You didn't have the money to do it, and that was so unfair to you. Does that make sense to you? No, he says selfish, so I don't know who that person is, but selfish. You have a brother?
Yeah, older brother.
Is that the one who's the selfish one, or is somebody else here? If you have a selfish person, he says around you, he goes, and why are you talking to them?
Ex-husband.
Oh, there it is. So sorry. Because he mentions male. So that's why I know if it was your poor brother. I'm so sorry. But your ex-husband, it's almost like he knew, no offense, that's meant so much to you. Does that make sense to you? He's like Satan in disguise. I will tell you right now. And that's me putting it very mildly to you. And I'm sure you got other words for him. But we'll just let that be at that moment. But he's saying, he goes, that's not fair because ever since you moved from there, you left a part behind with you. Does that make sense? That you have a goal somewhere in your head is how I look at you. Oh my God, you're hysterical. I have to tell you. He goes, she's funny. You have no idea. He goes, you're coming with, one day you want to get that house back, don't you? You're going to get that house back. Just that. He goes, that's a big goal with you. You will get that house back. Who has it now? They're decent. Okay? A nice family. That's how I'm going to put it to you. They're nice. But you'll have a chance to get that house back. And you will probably make it by the skin of your teeth. Don't ask me how you're going to do that, because you're almost going to be like, I don't even know how that's going to happen. Now the house is up for sale. You're going to have the ultimate heart attack. He's like, she's got to breathe. Because he says, you're panicky, your anxiety, your stress. He goes, but you've always been that way with certain things. He says, but you're also very tough in different ways. Does that make sense to you? He goes, but since I passed, you're different. Do you see my point? He says, so now it's like more anxiety, more stress, more worries. It's like you did a completely 90-degree turn, which is totally understandable. But he's saying you will have a time, that you will get that house back. He goes, because that's why my room is not the same. Would that make sense to you? His room is blue. What's blue with your son as well?
His favorite color.
Was that room blue by any chance?
Not that I remember.
So now he's showing me an angle of the room. God, I don't even know if I would be right. But you had a set of stairs in this house. Is that correct? What's going towards the left of the house? Would that be his room on the... God, if you would say towards the left, but the way I'm looking at it, it's like straight in front of me and then towards the left, like in a corner room. That's how he's showing me your room there. But I'm going to your old house to where he was. That's where I need you to focus in that house.
We had a step up into a kitchen.
Okay, and that's towards the left of the house when you would walk in. Would that make sense? And he was always in and out of the kitchen, or is he the one with the stuff always in the sink?
Yeah, you couldn't ever keep him inside.
Now, because he's like, I can grab stuff, leave it. Grab stuff, leave it. He goes, used to aggravate you with certain things because you're like, can't they put it in the dishwasher? Can't they wash the dish? Can't they throw something in the garbage? He goes, used to aggravate you a little bit with the kids. He goes, but that's why he probably goes to the left of the house. But his room, it's almost like it's not really touched in this house right now. I'll be very honest with you. I don't know if they've changed colors in there or whatever, but something with his room he does mention is almost the same. So that's probably where I feel like it's the same. You might not realize it as much because obviously you're not in that house anymore. This house, it's almost like it's a house. That's how I look at it with you. It's almost like you didn't even care to look at houses when you looked at houses. No offense, but you didn't. You know, it's almost like your ex, you know, you see, got a girl here. Is that my issue with him too? Your ex-husband, girlfriend, whatever the frick you want to call her at this point in time in her life.
The one he has now is fine.
But the one before was like Satan?
Oh, yeah.
And is that what made you sell the house, was when he was with her? Is that correct?
Well, he let her sell all of my dad's stuff and then let the bank take the house.
Yeah. That was spitefully done for her end. She only wanted him for the money. Do you understand? So it's a bad karma that comes around. I'll be very honest with you. She has children, though. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Bless her heart.
Poor kids. But they are going to give it to her. Well, her problem, not my problem. But it's going to come around. He doesn't come with any regrets, though, in a certain way. Your ex, I'm going to be honest with you, what happened there. It's almost like he's...
don't remember it.
No, because it's almost like he's saying in one way he feels bad, in others it's like, what was I going to do? That's not an answer for your son. So I'll make that very clear into that note because he says it was not fair to you. Now, was this his father?
No.
I didn't think so because he says I never considered him my father. So that's why I had to ask you if it was his father because I never considered him my father. He was never good to us in different ways. Does that make sense to you? He says he always hated how he treated you, especially abusive, verbally and physically, or just verbally. More the girlfriend would be the verbal one because he says verbal, very nasty. So I'm getting who's the nasty one. Not the new girlfriend, so I'm going anything in the past. That's why.
Yeah, she had a mouth on her.
Yeah, he goes always to. He didn't like it. I'm telling you right now. None of your kids really did, but him especially. Very protective of you in so many different ways. He says whatever history does not repeat itself. So I make that very clear. So he says you know exactly what that means. I'm sure you do. But he says, you know exactly, it will not repeat himself. But he says he's sorry that he brought you so much sorrow. He didn't, that's not anything that was intentional here, which you do know. But he hates to see you cry. He hates to see you lost because he says, sometimes you don't even know who you are sometimes, if that makes sense to you in a weird kind of way. It just depends on your day and mood. My birthday is one of the hardest times for you as well. He's like that. It's almost like you want to skip over the whole month. Does that make sense? He goes, because it starts from the 1st. He goes, even though I'm not born on the 1st, but it's like I'm smack right there. Does that make sense? Like towards that beginning of the month where you feel like it just drags out that month. He gives me the letter M. Who is the letter M, or is he born in the month of the letter M? March, May.
Maybe he's born in November.
What's the letter M?
My name's Mindy.
Okay, so maybe that's the M. What else comes with you as M? He keeps saying M. Did he used to have a problem with certain letters to say? Would that make sense to you when he was a kid? God, he really goes back with you, man. Like to really pick your brain. No offense.
His girlfriend, her last name was McGowan.
And he was with her during the time of his passing, not in the car, but together. He says she was devastated, blonde. Cute girl. Little cute girl. Very sweet. Wouldn't have lasted. So sorry for her on that note. But he said, nice girl. She really was good to me. She was devastated for a very long time. She didn't even know what to do with herself, this one. She really loved him. She really cared about him. So it's almost like it took her a while to date or get back to herself, to be her, her normal self. Maybe that's the best way to say it. She still call you or something here, or just check in on you? Do you see her or something here? He goes, because he says you will meet again somewhere. I don't know what that means. You could run into her. You could just bump into her. But you're going to see her again soon. I don't know what that means for you, but he brings her up for some particular reason with you. Okay, because it's almost like she likes to check on you or know you. So do other friends, though, correct? He's sports player, your son? Basketball or something here?
He played 1 year.
He liked the basketball, but he doesn't like drama, your son. Do you understand? He's like cliquey. He goes, I'm too cliquey. He goes, I like to just hang with everybody and just be with everybody. It was just my personality and how I am, if that makes sense to you. So he's saying that, he goes, I liked how I met different people and did different things. Very athletic, though, your son. Very active. It's almost like I can't be in the house 24/7. I would drive you crazy. I always had to be here, there, and everywhere. It was always with the same same crew at all times, you know, like it's almost like you worried in one way but didn't worry in another. Does that make sense to you? Because you just knew where he was, you know, he was honest, did some stupid stuff, typical kid. He says, you know, I drank once or twice, Mom, but you know how it was. He goes, but I wasn't stupid about it. You always said, don't be stupid, don't drink and drive, don't do it. Because I never did that. I always listened to you with that. So I have to be honest, he was always very good with that. But he was social butterfly. Everybody always wanted your son around because he had this uplifting personality, always welcomed everybody, always was sweet to everybody. Mr. Popularity, this one as well at the same time. And he comes in as graduating with a scholarship.
He graduated early.
He should have had a scholarship, though. Would that make sense to you?
He wanted to go into the Navy.
That's probably why, where the difference was. Very smart, that's why. He doesn't like to take too much on at the same time, but I like to get things done quick. Does that make sense to you? I don't want to be overwhelmed, but I want it done now. I don't want to do everything in years. He would have done great in the Navy, you do understand. He used to be everything. Is your dad or one of your uncles or somebody here that was in the Navy? Or in the Marines or something here? Because they show me medals. So your dad has the medals? Or had medals? I don't even know if you remember.
He had some pins.
Because he says, I like the medals. Comes with the medals and the flag. You don't have the flag, though. Is that correct? Because he's saying it was passed to somebody else. Is that correct along the way? He says your brother has a hard time with things. His uncle has a hard time with certain things. Sometimes a little too angry. Does that make sense with things? He can come as more of an outburst. He says you're more emotional. He goes, that's just your personality, how you are. But sometimes my uncle goes too angry, too yelling and screaming. And, you know, I want revenge and I want this and I want that. He goes, you got to take a breather. It's almost like you got high blood pressure. He's going to pop like any day now. He's like, oh, breathe a little bit. But he always comes with stress, your brother, sometimes. He goes, sometimes he aggravates you, your brother, so sorry. But sometimes it's just like too much overwhelming. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like you need to take a step back from certain things, he does say, that it's just too much for going on for you. He says work is work with you. It's almost like I said, it's a paycheck. If you didn't have to work, you probably wouldn't be there and you would keep moving and grooving doing something else. It's almost like you want to help kids and you want to do something with kids. So I'm going to tell you something may come into you in that area, but I feel like it's got to be normal, because sometimes when you deal with the parents, no offense onto that note, you don't want to deal with the parents. Have you ever thinking about starting a foundation? He keeps talking about a foundation or like a charity or something for parents to a similar situation of yours. Would that make sense to you? As he mentions it might be something good for you to get into. He says you need something. It will help you heal if you have somebody else who understands you. He says because it's almost like nobody gets you. Do you see my point? And sometimes it's almost like you feel like the broken record with it. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to cry in front of everybody anymore. It's almost like you hate when people complain about their kids. It's almost like you want to go through the TV and stab somebody. God bless you, little girl. So you're just getting a little violent in certain things. He says, he goes, but I get it. You have one woman who complains, not you. And actually, I will not know. But you have one woman, because you made me sure I pointed to you on that. I'm so sorry. But you have one woman that bitches about her kid. Excuse my French, but is that true? Always complaining, always something. It's almost like be thankful. Do you see my point? It annoys you. So somebody comes around is complaining. He says, ignore her. Don't let her stress you. Do you see my point with that? He goes, because no. He goes, it's almost like you don't take any day for granted now. Does that make sense? You live life a lot differently, and it's totally understand. He says, you carry a piece with me at all times. Does that make sense to you? It's a piece always, what do you wear it, or do you put it in a pocket, or is it in your car? Because you're kind of everywhere. He goes, she's everywhere with things. He goes, you have no idea. He says, but she has a piece of me always with her. Makes you feel secure, if that makes sense. He used to have a set of medals or a chain or something he used to wear. Is that what you wear all the time? Or is that something that you keep very close to you? Or is that the dangler in your, well, you've got a lot of things. Got a